Let's see if this is working. I hope it does. Good morning. As usual, I need to check everything. Okay, let me check the sound and the image. Mhm. Content, live, and let's see. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure if the comments actually going through on my end. Weird. Okay. Um. Let me see. Sorry, guys. It just takes some time to open today's internet. Part of the reason is because you'll see during the call. All right. I'm just hoping that it's working. So I was not able to check it myself to verify. Okay. Now I see it. Good. 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 Okay. Cool. Miss Erika, good morning. Thank you. All right. So my oh, now it's loading. Yeah, just taking time. Okay. I think the reason why it's taking time. Yeah. Now I see it as well. The reason why it's taking time is this. So let's quickly go over the ghostDAO on Mortar testnet, and it's live. We are going to finally we are going to publicly announce it sometime this upcoming week. As far as the marketing launch, engineering launch has been completed somewhat successfully. Now, the reason why I say somewhat is because we may still have bugs, and in that case, we may have to redeploy everything. Now, why would we have bugs? Potentially, is because this is the first version of the ghostDAO with the native coin backing, with the ETC backing. What type of bugs could we expect? Well, anything from valuation, from figuring out if the backend is correct or not, to bonding, right? Because we need to start doing some bonds next week or the week after, in terms of ETC bonds and also LP bonds, whether it's going to be ETC versus eGhost, right? So we need to figure out those just to make sure that it's all working properly, to make sure that the calculations are proper, to make sure that the treasury is adjusting properly, to make sure that the eGhost supply is properly adjusting. But uh, so far we see that the backend. So some whales ask this question. So we have the backend of $3, but the price is $1.93. So how can that be possible? Well, it could be possible because the price is below the backing. Now, from fundamental perspective, it means that this is a great opportunity, right? Because the fundamental value is $3.11, like Warren Buffett approach, right? While the market price is $1.93. Now, how can that be ever be possible? Meaning, how could the price be below the backing? Well, what we could do as a treasury, the treasury could take funds from here and put them towards the DEX and kind of like buy it out. So that's a possibility. Now, that possibility, in the case of Olympus DAO, was never executed, but it is a possibility. It's possible. It's feasible. So in that case, what's going to happen is the treasury cannot single-handedly take out the funds and buy it. Right? What's going to happen is the treasury will need to distribute the kind of the back end to all the holders of eGhost. Now the holders of eGhost could respectively go ahead and purchase eCasper on the DEX to push the price higher. So there's no automated programmatic way of making sure the price cannot drop below the backend. It's more like a kind of a game theory type of approach where if the price is below the backend, again, it's like it's a great opportunity. Now, why do we have that? And why don't we have a similar situation on, say, Sepolia, right? Because we launched the mortar on Wednesday, right? So by Wednesday we had this situation. So how come, you know, how come the arbitrage is still here? It's been like 3 days, almost, yeah, 2 or 3 days already. Well, let's go to Sepolia, right? So Sepolia's situation is back in its $137, and the price is almost $5,000. Now the market cap is 70 million. Now if you go to Hoodie, I actually didn't check Hoodie in a while. Hoodie, the price at the back end is $3, and the market price is $24, right? The market cap is 246 million. So from that perspective, the overall market price, the overall market cap is, I don't know, almost $350 million for the entire project, which is quite insane. So what's happening here? How, what's the reason? So let's not forget that when we are on Hoodie, for example, which is representing Ethereum, one Ethereum, as you can see, is equivalent to 2,500 GDAI. Now, the price when we launched it was about 2,500. Now it's higher. Now it's like almost 4,000. So that price can be adjusted. So on Hoodie, every single time you mint one Hoodie ETH, you get $2,500 worth of purchasing power, essentially. And that is able to significantly help us push the price up. Now, the faucets on the Hoodie are extremely generous, right? So those faucets give away maybe 100, 200 ETH every single week if you're mining through the default kind of proof of work faucet. So that's why like it's easy to mine these. Hoodie ETH is in huge circulation right now. It may not be the case in a year from today, but today it's you can mine Hoodie ETH like very easily. And that's why it's easy to push the price, because again, one ETH is $2,500. Now you go to Sepolia. In Sepolia, the faucets tells us 3,500. It has been adjusted. Now the real price again is around 4,000. Let's just keep it 3,500. Okay. Now Sepolia ETH is a lot more difficult to mine. Right. For example, based on the official faucet, you can mine 2.5 ETH every 2 days or so. But then it gives you a limit of how many ETH you can mine over the course of a week. So I think it's like maybe, I would say up to maybe 10 ETH per week you can mine. Still significant. Why? Because 10 ETH per week, that's about $35,000, right? Based on these prices, $35,000 worth of impact on the price. And the price is what it is, and the market cap is what it is, right? Okay, noted. Amazing. So what's up with Mortar? Well, Mortar, the faucet is terrible. All right, so we had a call yesterday with the council. I was presenting to them kind of the existing faucets, and when you go on Google, right, and type it up etc Mortar faucet, so you have the Ghost native one. You have another, well, that's also Ghost, and then this one, right? So this one was not working. That was kind of the traditional faucet by the Ethereum Classic community, and it was not working up until yesterday. So last 3 or 4 weeks, it was not operable. Like nobody was able to mine. Today, alas, it's working. Like literally, like yesterday it wasn't. Today it's working again. So here, look at the rate. That maybe that's why my machine is a little bit slow. So you can mine 0.17 Mortar ETH per hour. When I launched it, just about 30 minutes ago. So each session is 2 hours only. When I launched it, 30 minutes ago, it was like 0.6 ETH. So you can essentially mine 1 METC in 2 hours. Not as generous, right? Why is it not that generous? Because 1 METC is not $3,500. 1 METC is about $16 right now, right? So you need to mine 20, 30 times the Mortar ETC to match the purchasing power of 1 Sepolia ETH. I hope that makes sense, right? So 1 Sepolia is about $3,500. 1 METC is $16, right? So we're looking at 20, 30, 40 times the Mortar ETC, METC you need to mine to get the same purchasing power and thus impact on ghostDAO as you could have with just 1 SEP ETH. Now the thing about Sepolia ETH, lots of lots of whales, from what I know, have been buying Cipolla ETH. On the market, you can. I think it's $3 for 10 SEP ETH. So yeah, you didn't want to mine, you didn't want to like actually do the hard work. But the hard work in terms of you earning money and then spending that money onto that SEP ETH, that's let's assume an equivalent. Thing is, while on SEP ETH you can kind of exchange a stake, monetary stake for SEP ETH, on Mortar, I don't see any opportunities to buy Mortar. So if you guys want to get Mortar, you need to fucking mine it. So the one way is to mine it. Another way is to go to Ghost Faucet, which was the only faucet operable on Ethereum Classic just for the entire month. And thanks to Avalon, one of our whales, now each drip is one METC. So every single 24 hours you can request one METC through our faucet. Now, of course, you can try to abuse it, like enter through different VPNs and to put different addresses, and it will let you kind of abuse this thing. So it's one METC per request. But let's say we have 20 VPNs, okay, or 20 different kind of countries in the VPN. So yeah, so you can abuse it and get that 20 METC over the course of, like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, right? So that's possible here. While with this faucet, which was completely not operable for the entire month, you can only get one METC over 2 hours. So what I'm trying to say is we're pretty competitive. Ghost is pretty competitive compared to this existing faucet, and both faucets are good. So I would advocate towards mining everywhere you can. But then, how many do you need? Like, how many METC you need? Well, again, if you get 20 Mortar ETC, the price will be taken directly from the currently it's taken from Binance. Actually, it's a Binance API, not from the exchange, but from their kind of like equivalent of CoinMarketCap. So, so based on those prices, right? Based on, like, say $60. If you get 20 METC, it's going to be only $300 worth of impact. So, I keep kind of beating around the bush. The message is mine as much METC as possible. I would argue that METC is a way more fair play than Cipolla ETH, because Cipolla ETH could have bought it. Hoodie is just way too generous. METC cannot buy it, and it's not as generous. And that's most likely going to be the real or closer to real resemblance of what we are to expect on the actual mainnet. Okay, so why would you still go for Mortar if Cipolla ETH is available? Well, here, right, you still need 6.9 Casper for your node, and yes, you can go ahead and just buy SEP ETH and not have a headache, etc. But the prices are very high, right? The price is almost $5,000 right now on the DEX. So for you to buy 7 Casper per node, if you want to launch more nodes, you'll have to spend at this price about $35,000 per one node. So that's going to be about like 10 ETHs. You spend that $3 right per node, right? Like to get the allocation. I mean, and maybe that makes sense, right? Monetarily. But of course, when you keep buying it, you'll keep pushing the price. So it's not going to be $4,000, $5,000 anymore. It's going to be $6,000, $7,000, etc. So as you keep buying it, you're pushing the price higher and higher. Now, on Mortar, yes, it takes longer to mine, but the price is only $2. So for you to get 7 Casper, you need only $14, right? So yes, of course, that's still significant. You still need to get that freaking Casper on, through that METC on, and you need to figure it out, right? But I think, again, like, the knowledge, the learning curve is to figure out those difficult situations, right? Like, let's not make it easy for ourselves. Let's make it real. Like, if real means easy, no problem. But if real is challenging, let's just fight through that, battle through that. So, what are some of the resolutions that we could do on the community basis to help with the Mortar ghostDAO situation? By the way, all the other chains will be even more challenging. Gnosis will be even more challenging. Pulse is going to be even more challenging. Linear is going to be easier because we can do SEP ETH and then just bridge it, or maybe Hoodie ETH and just bridge it. Whatever other chains we're going to launch, BNB is going to be very freaking challenging, because BNB can only do 0.3 BNB per day on the official faucets. Like, the easiest one, I would say, given all the knowledge and insights we have, is probably going to be Tron. Hoodie and Tron, right? Hoodie does not have good RPC endpoints. It's blocking extraction of the events, so we cannot launch on Hoodie, unfortunately. But as far as Tron, Tron is giving out like thousands, whatever, of the testnet tokens. So Tron is probably going to be the easiest one, and maybe that's the next one we shall go after. Yeah, it's 27 validators. I get it. I absolutely agree as well. But from the faucet perspective, it's that. So what can we do? What is the resolution for MATC, and also what's the resolution for other Web3 projects, that we are kind of advocating here for, such as Pulse, such as Gnosis, and others? Well, it's a community play, guys. Like, it's a community play. We need to start potentially becoming. We need to start running Mortar ETC nodes, testnet nodes. So based on what Avalon mentioned to us, right, in Wales, it seems like he can mine. I keep forgetting whether it's 3,000 METC per day or 5,000 METC per day. So if the community at large, inside of Ghost, and that's a great litmus test. Do we have a community, right? If a community starts running 3-4 nodes of Mortar ETC, right, and we get all that METC, let's assume we get 20,000 METC per day together, and then all we do is we donate that 20,000 METC to the Ghost faucet, right? And we increase the giveaway. Instead of one METC drip, right? We are increasing that to, say, 20 METC or 100 METC. 100 METC is going to be $1,600 per request. Okay, that way, if you have 100 METC, oh my goodness, you can push up this baby like very, very high to the sky. And take advantage of the arbitrage opportunities and such. So it's up to us to figure this out or not. Like currently, one METC is already kind of very generous, and it's generous thanks to Avalon, because he donated, I think, 12,000 METC to the faucet. Thanks to him, we're able to increase the drop significantly. So that's what we have to deal with. That's the situation. That's the situation, period. Because this faucet is going to be, it's been half hour, it's only 0.07 METC. It's like, what, $1 worth of, ETC Classic, like, come on, it's nothing. And this one is, it's a good one, but it's only one METC per like a session, which is quite terrible, to be honest, for our purposes. So that's this, right? What are the next steps with the Mortar testnet overall with ghostDAO? So we need to test it. We need to see if when I say we, I mean everybody, the team, the whales, the council. We need to test this baby, see if there are any issues with it. So you can see this interesting new instance called wrapped ETH. So let me just go over this one more, kind of, maybe not one more time, maybe just for the first time. So while on Sepolia, we have the faucet, and on this faucet you can, kind of mint or burn ETH into GDAI. That's the whole point of this kind of faucet situation. Well, we don't have that anymore on Mortar. We don't have that faucet, but we do have a wrapper. So what's a wrapper? So the native coin does not have an address. That's not a feature. That's not a bug. That's just, a feature. That's just what it is, right? Like, the native coin does not have an address. Only tokens have an address, right? So with the native coins thus cannot be utilized on the DEXs, right? So when you go to the DEX here in Uniswap, there's no such thing as ETC, because in order for Uniswap to pick up the pair, the Uniswap needs to pick up the existing address of token A and also an existing address of token B. So there's no existing address of token A when we're talking about the native coin, which is ETC, which is the gas coin. Okay. So what has been the workarounds? The workarounds have always been and that workaround has actually been introduced by Gnosis back in 2017, in the GigaChat years of this all. So you go ahead and wrap your ETC into wrapped ETC. Now, okay, cool. We wrapped into wrapped ETC. How come it's called wrapped ETH? Well, wrapped ETH is just a legacy name. So we may need to change the name on the UI, but on the backend, it's still going to be wrapped ETH. So in reality, this is wrapped ETC. So that's like the legacy. Now, there's a kind of debate between the team and myself specifically, is like whether you should do this as wrapped ETH or ETC. And the argument from the dev team is like, guys, like, listen, wrapped ETH, yeah, it's the name, but it's a super legacy thing. Like, it's the contract, super legacy contract. Everything is extremely like proper and trusted, etc. So how about we just leave that out like this? Of course, I think, like, my view is like, well, let's just change this to etc on the UI, on the back end, it will still be called wrapped ETH. So no problem with that. We'll just change the user interface and therefore the icon. So that's something for all of us to decide as a community. Oh, by the way, the price is $16.48. But yeah, so with this wrapper, instead of the faucet, you are wrapping your METC, which is the native coin, into a wrapped ETH. Okay, for now, let's just keep it wrapped ETH. Once you wrapped it, you then can do the same thing. Then you go to the DEX and do everything. Now, how do DEXs kind of go around this? Well, typically, the DEXs do give you an option of just introducing ETH or ETC or BNB or any native coin. What happens though? You put in, let's assume ETH, like the native coin itself. But when you are swapping ETH for, say, eCasper, what the DEX does, the DEX is automatically wrapping your ETH into wrapped ETH and then swapping that for eCasper. So that wrapper is on the back end. Now the question is, why cannot we do the same thing? Why can't we just do the wrapper on the back end as well? Well, for the swap, no problem. That's easy. As far as the bonds, there may be some issues, right? So we cannot be introducing ETC bonds. We can have to introduce wrapped ETH bonds. Similarly, we cannot introduce LP bonds where LP is ETC versus eCasper. We can only introduce LP bonds where it's wrapped ETH versus eCasper. One will ask, can we just figure this out on the bond as well, like for the automated wrapper? And we could potentially, but that may lead to certain issues. As far as the treasury calculations and bond calculations, it's a lot more mechanics down there, and we decided not to kind of get into those weeds for now. And kind of the GigaChat move is just to know that your stuff is always being wrapped. So how about you just wrap it and that's it, right? So that's an extra step, unfortunately, but which we thought would not be here. But whatever, it is what it is. So that's this. This step is pretty easy in any case. So once you have the wrapper, once you wrapped it up, then you can buy the eCasper on the DEX. Everything else is the same. Okay. Now, how come some of you guys don't see these numbers here? Well, you don't see these numbers because you are in geo-restricted regions where Binance is banning you. Congratulations. And that is subject, you guys, even in developed countries now, subject to the ban. So you're geo-restricted for one of the first time in your lives, you don't have access to everything you're supposed to get access to, right? So typically it's developing nations who have no access, but lately for crypto stuff in particular, for certain exchanges that are not regulated in the US, you don't have access. You don't have access to those assets if you live in America or live in Europe, parts of Europe, or live in Japan, right? So that's what it is. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is. And of course we fight against it. So what's the best way for you to go around this? The best way for you to go around this is to probably use a VPN. Yes, you have to get a VPN in a developed country to access this thing, or to access lots of other things. So why do you have to get a VPN, potentially? Well, so currently, the mechanics is just based on the smart contracts. No problem with that. Does it mean that ghostDAO is geo-restricted? No, because what we've done is we tried to go for CoinGecko. CoinGecko does not have API request anymore, unlimited. We thought they did, but they don't. So we had to go to Binance, which is the next quote most reliable source of truth for the numbers. What numbers am I referring to? I'm referring to only for the number of wrapped ETH, meaning ETC therefore. So what's the price of ETC? That's the only thing that I'm referring to. But wait a second. What is that centralized to rely on Binance? Yes, it is 100%. So what's the switch down the road? The switch down the road is to go towards a local DEX, and that was always the point, to go to the local DEX and ping the data from the local DEX, and that's going to be the price discovery mechanism. Now, what's the problem with going to the DEX? Why didn't we just execute this right away? If you know all the solutions, how come the solution's not implemented? Well, if you're going to go to the DEX, you're not going to be getting the data from the DEX itself. You're going to be getting the data from the blockchain explorer, say from the Etherscan in case of Ethereum, in case of ETC, that's Blockscout, right? So you have to go to Blockscout. You have to get the balance of ETC. You have to get the balance of then whatever stablecoin, right? And based on those balances, you calculate the price, and that's what you kind of put on the UI here. So the user interface here will just be calculating that price based on the DEX reserve of ETC divided by, DEX reserve of the stablecoin over the DEX reserve of the ETC. Now, why do we even put the dollar prices? We don't have to put them. Like we're not connected. We're not pegged to a dollar. We're putting them just for just for the UX. In reality, if you don't have to put the USD, we don't need to deal with Binance. Like Binance can burn hell, right? But we're doing this for you guys, kind of like to make it easier for the user. We don't have to do it though, right? Like we're not pegged to USD at all. USD is just a user interface play. USD is not used in any backend calculations, period, right? So in that case, if you're going to go to Blockscout and just retrieve the data from Blockscout, we may run into rate limits. Very similar to what some of the whales ran into while with the rate limit of RPC endpoints. Very similar stuff is going to happen with the Blockscout. So what has to happen, and it's like a completely bizarre situation, is we have to launch another server. The server needs to be taking data from Etherscan like once every minute or so. We need to cache that data on the centralized server, and we are then connecting that centralized server with price discovery on the user interface. Not the best solution, but so far the only solution. It's crazy shit. Because why? Because they're limiting us on RPC requests on Etherscan, on Blockscout, on CoinGecko, etc. Everybody is putting rate limits. Right? So that's the situation. That's the state of Web3 today. So we'll have to most likely kind of create that relay server. What are some other solutions? Some community solutions? Maybe again, we run some nodes on Ethereum Classic, and maybe those nodes are then kind of giving us more infinite RPC endpoints connected to the. I don't even know what the solution is, to be honest. Like, we need to figure this out. Like, as far as the community solution, because that centralized server is still going to be centralized for the price discovery. Or we can just say, screw that USD calculation altogether. Every single user has to do the calculation in USD themselves. In that case, we don't have to deal with this bullshit, and then everything is good. Yeah. So that's ghostDAO Mortar. We have to test. We have to try to break it. We have to see what's up. Keep mining Mortar ETC. Keep mining it. Right? I know it's not going to be easy. Keep doing that. Okay. The other thing that leads me to the next point. The other thing that leads me to the next point is, does it open? Oh yeah, it does. Okay, is this mini presentation regarding the vision. So the vision for the e-ghost ecosystem is Vita money as far as the economic side of things, right? So as far as where we're striving, and I wanted to make a different presentation. To be honest, just all the other points took so much focus away. I wanted to make a presentation about owning your infrastructure, where you have to own your infrastructure, and what it means is currently you cannot, have zero control over anything you do, right? So when you are running your, stock portfolio, you have to rely on brokers. Every single broker in developed countries, as we showed last week, only insures you up to what, $500,000 or so per account, which is like insane. So if you have, let's say $2-3 million, you have to trust the broker. So it's crazy. Like your stocks, not only you have to take risk on your stocks, but you also have to take risk on the broker, which is like absolutely fucking insane. Now, of course, there are ways around this. You can ask the broker to send you stock certificates directly to your mailing address, and you kind of running no risk now. But then you put them in a safe. Like, I mean, you can do that too, but then how do you sell it? Like, you are making the process a lot more illiquid as far as liquidating your stock portfolio. When it comes down to treasury, same thing. The bank is insuring you, similarly. Like if it's a bank in the US, for example, it's up to 250,000 insurance, FDIC insurance. If you say buy treasuries instead, same. It's a $500,000 limit. on your insurance. So even if you trust those instruments, right? Gold. How do you store gold? Like, oh, everybody says let's go physical gold. Okay, cool. First of all, on the physical gold, every single time you buy, you pay an extra 5% haircut, and when you sell, equally 5%, commission fee. So overall, like if you do with physical gold, it's going to cost you a lot more. It's going to like about 10% for a turnaround transaction, which is like insane. Now, how do you store physical gold? What if you're traveling? Like, where do you even put it? Like, what if you live in a hot environment, right? Like, like warm weather, tropical, whatever. What if you accidentally scratch it? What if you have kids, right? Or like overall, like you still need to buy some liquids to, put on gold to make sure it's like it's, it's good. Like, yeah, I mean, technically, if you lived, I don't know, centuries ago, you could have melted gold, right? But now, what do you do in current realities? Like, what do you do? And when you buy physical gold, are you 100% sure it's real? Like, are you 100% sure there's pure? What's the purity level? What if there's something behind it? Like, you need to really, really understand what you're buying. Now, if you buy, conversely, gold ETFs, for example, well, you're running credit risk against the issuer. The issuer may default, and if the issuer defaults, they default. Do we know 100% sure that U.S. holds all the gold that they claim they do? Do we, can we verifiably say that China holds all the gold that they say they do, right? Like, how do we know? Like, it's crazy. Like, it's absolutely insane. So, no idea what's happening. So you have no control for gold and thus for silver or any other precious metals. Commodities, same thing. Like, you're not going to be controlling, barrels of oil in your residence, right? You have to be buying futures, and same thing. You have massive credit risk against the broker and also against the other party, because the futures contract is like a two-side deal or forward, right? So it's crazy. Now ETFs will charge you extra fee, and also you have no control over the credit risk of the issuer of those ETFs. Now, what are some, well, real estate. Okay, so real estate is perhaps a safer bet. But when it comes to real estate has its maintenance fees. And the maintenance fees are not associated with just the tax, the property tax, but it's also having to do something with insurance, right? Because your house can be robbed, or maybe there's maybe there's a, God forbid, some hurricanes or bad weather conditions that may impact the healthiness of your house. Well, then you can say, okay, fine, let me just go buy an apartment. Well, in apartment you have maintenance fees too. You have property tax. You also have maintenance fees as far as if it's a co-op or not. So like all these issues, like making you not essentially own anything, right? Like it's your place already, it's your house already, but you still have to keep paying monthly fees just to maintain it. You can say, well, life is life. I get it, guys. Life is life. It's not that life is life. It's more like you have no control over your infrastructure. That's why they are doing those things to you. That's the answer. You have what can you do? Like let's assume we disagree. What can you do? You can do nothing. You cannot go ahead and and go against the insurance companies and say, hey, lower down the freaking premium on my insurance. I mean, you can, but nobody's doing it, right? Like nobody's doing this, and the insurance companies say those are the market rates based on supply and demand, right? In reality, do we know that's the case? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Why? Because insurance, if you want to become an insurance company, you need to have all the licenses in the world, and you need to kind of create the competition. Good luck starting your own insurance company today. It's going to be very challenging, right? But they say, well, it's the market rate by the monopolies, right? Like try to break in and create your own insurance company. Good luck to you. Good luck. So clearly the game is kind of rigged to some extent. So that's why I wanted to create like a different presentation again, maybe for next week, about the fact that yes, we need to own our own infrastructure, and Ghost, some other cryptocurrencies enable us to do this. Bitcoin enables us to do that. Uniswap enables us to do that, right? So Web3 projects enable us to do that because they are permissionless in nature, so anybody can join. So therefore, anybody can own it, right? So in the case of Uniswap, you control your own infrastructure. The smart contracts are not upgradable for V2 in particular, and you can deposit your reserves and you can become an LP. In case of Bitcoin, similarly, you can buy mining rigs, start mining, and now you control certain supply and you control certain percentage of the hashing rate on the network. So completely permissionlessly. Ethereum a little bit less permissionless, but still 32 ETH. That's what 100 at this point, $120,000. This is a big chunk of investment. Plus, on top of that, you have to buy a server to mine stuff. But now you are part of the consensus mechanism. You also stake in. You're also receiving some rewards. So to some extent, permissionless. Of course, the entry point is quite high on the stake side. Of course, I'm not going to mention all the other Solana and all these other fuckers who are Web 2.5, but there are certain ways with Web3 projects. Monero, for example, also a good example. You can also become a miner on Monero cheaper than the one on Bitcoin, for example. Of course, the compensation is lower, but you can become part of the consensus mechanism and thus ensure privacy transactions for yourself while you're enforcing the network along with other miners. So with Ghost, the idea is that you can also become an owner of the infrastructure. And what does it give you? The kind of the point for Vita money is, well, Vita money gives us the ability to properly save our money. So we are buying egos on the DEX, right? Or we get in the allocation by becoming testnet miners, testnet validators. We get in those ghost allocations. And since the whole ecosystem is being powered by transaction fees, but most importantly by bridging fees, we are able to get those ghost specific, ghost denominated dividends, right? So we have our initial stakes, which we purchase to obtain in any way, or maybe from JV swaps, right? And then we can stake those and legitimately earn dividend rewards without diluting the supply, right? So those are going to be absolutely revenue-backed, on-chain revenue-backed dividends. And that's arguably is a way better way of storing your wealth, right? So again, with the disclaimer, because that way you're totally betting on the revenue, on the bridging revenue game, essentially. You also bridge on the protocol, protocols development down the road as far as the price, if you want to do this. But again, Ghost is a utility token, not a security token. What I would argue mostly is, of course, the bet is on the bridging fees. If the bridging fees are significant on the Ghost ecosystem, then you're, sky's the limit as far as the dividend size, right? Then it makes sense to become a validator. And the game has a positive loop cycle where the higher the APY on the validator side, the more validators will be joining, thus diluting all the other validators. But by doing that, the pool of validators is going to be increasing. Thus, the bridge is going to become even more trustless, even more trustworthy, therefore, and more bridging fees will inevitably migrate towards the Ghost ecosystem. So that's and thus the bridging fees will keep increasing, the APY will keep increasing, and more validators, etc. So more validators, high APY, more validators, higher APY. So that's the positive loop cycle. So that's what I'm talking about, and that's what I wanted to focus the attention on. However, in light of Mortar faucet not working for like the entire fucking month, and only Ghost faucet being the only faucet available on Mortar, the presentation switched to a different angle. So let me just go over this really quickly here. We have about 15 minutes. So the vision that Ghost shall have, and I mentioned that prior, but now we have slides, is to become a Web3 savior, right? So we are the Web3 savior, and the reason how that can be achieved is by helping helping other Web3 protocols grow, we grow, right? So the Vita money itself, the focus there is more on the economic side again, right? So you can stake your stuff. It's more like for the validators. As far as for partnerships, that could be the angle where, we help ETC grow and we grow together. We help Gnosis grow and we grow together. We help Linea grow, for example, or like Tron, or whatever the partners we decide to choose with, right? To bridge with, we grow with them together. So we are the Web3 savior there. And the ideas that were presented yesterday to potentially extend the suite of products, right, of Ghost products to some extent. So we already have the faucet, the faucet here, which helps with testnet adoption, right? So that's the idea. And the incentives for the users to join is the faucet has no KYC, geo unrestricted, so good. And I'll show you in a second the adoption there. So then the idea is to potentially expand our kind of influence over those other Web3 projects through native coin price discovery, as we discussed prior, where that native coin price discovery will not happen on CEXs, but it will migrate towards the DEX V2s. And that's going to be possible through DEX V2 first of all, which we are forking by Uniswap, but also through ghostDAO for the additional utility, and also for the Ghost Bridge for the actual bridging, right? If I have my ETC, I'm a miner of ETC, I'm earning ETC. Currently, the only way for me to cash it out is through the CEX. But if I have the bridge, what I could do, I can just fixate my profits by bridging that ETC to, I don't know, Ethereum Tether or Ethereum DAI if I want to go to the stablecoin, or I can just bridge it to, say, Bitcoin and migrate all my, ETC profits into BTC through the bridge by passing the centralized exchange and doing that transaction directly through the Ghost chain bridge, thus introducing additional coin utility to my ETC. So now it makes sense for me to mine ETC. It makes sense for me to mine Gnosis. It makes sense for me to mine Pulse, because I don't need to sell it. I can just diversify it into Bitcoin. I can diversify this into Monero. I can diversify this into ETH. I can diversify this into each other, right? So that is like a pretty interesting additional utility to the native coins possible through the bridge. Now, another thing is native coin liquidity. We also discussed that before. So instead of taking liquidity from the CEXs, we can migrate that liquidity to the DEX V2. We help those pure Web3 projects migrate their liquidity towards the DEX V2, which is also possible through us forking Uniswap, doing ghostDAO, doing Ghost Bridge, right? And how we are incentivizing such liquidity migration is through coin utility, right? So now it's, I can take arbitrage opportunities with my ETC. So coin utility and arbitrage, right? So those two. Finally, RPC endpoints. So we need additional RPC endpoints to be developed. Those RPC endpoints on the side of each chain that we are integrating with. So whether those are testnets or mainnets, the community needs to start running more RPC endpoints, and thus enriching the kind of the infrastructure for each coin in particular, but also thus making the bridge more safe. Because if you have, instead of 10 publicly available RPC endpoints, we have 30 or 50 or 100 publicly available RPC endpoints, the system becomes a lot more resilient. When I say the system, I mean the whole infrastructure of decentralized bridging, right? So that's also got to be possible from reinforcing this on the Ghost side by ghostDAO and Ghost Bridge. Okay, so that's that. But let's talk about what we have achieved so far with the daily faucet. So on the daily faucet side, we did some calculations. Those are, sufficiently accurate, but please check on your end. But it seems that Cipolle ETH proof of work, this legacy faucet, has been generating 3,500 transactions per day. So 3,500 faucet requests per day. Now Google Faucet by Google has been generating on Cipolle side has been generating 2,000 ghost faucet requests. Faucet requests per day, not ghost, just except ETH faucet requests per day. Chainlink, that's the most kind of questionable one. I'm not sure if these numbers are true, but it seems like around 833 daily requests. Hoodie, proof of work, has been generating about 500. Now Go, so far we only had 83. Now it's not, I need to kind of put a massive disclaimer. So this is just for SEP ETH. This is just for SEP ETH. This is just for SEP ETH. This is just for Hoodie. Now for Ghost, it's everything. So this white bar here, it's everything. It's SEP ETH, Tron, BNB, Hoodie, ETC. So like all together at this point of time, 83. However, last 2 weeks, we had some massive traffic. I believe it came out of somewhere in Eastern Europe, and they pushed the daily request significantly. The maximum was reached at 360 daily requests. So we put certain anti-spam measures, right, for the faucet. Had we not put those though, we would be probably looking at 300, 400, 500 daily requests already, matching legacy Hoodie proof of work faucet. And so far, every other day we get one more member joining the builders group on Telegram, directly converted from the faucet. We track that too. So And we're doing some SEO optimization. We need to write more articles, but essentially we can kind of do better. And so far, these are the leading faucets. Like these are the leading faucets with massive history. They're not other better faucets so far. Based on the requests. Like this is, we are essentially amongst the greatest ones. Now the classic, the legacy motor proof of work that finally started working today is only 3 requests per day. So we're already beating that one. And with the maximum, we are almost matching hoodie. And it's not that far out. Like, let's assume we get like at the maximum is 360, and now SEP ETH, the legacy one is 3500. Well, we're just 10x short of SEP ETH. Right? It's not unachievable. Like it's on the horizon for us to reach that level too. We are doing this for less than a year. These guys doing this for years now. So we are coming in as a new player and doing pretty well. Thanks to everybody's support. But also would be nice to get more support, right? Like if you guys could, mine your stuff on your end and contribute to the faucet so we could increase the drips and thus become more competitive. In any case, this initiative of Ghost Faucet already brings traffic, and the idea is if you're going to be, pushing more on the Uniswap B2 Forex, and we're going to be pushing up ghostDAO and ghostBridge and some other initiatives, we may get more traffic, right? So that's that. Now, on the side of the miners, right? Like how we are essentially sustaining, become like a pure Web3 vision here. Well, let me just remind you that the initial genesis of Ghost, inside of Ghost Chain, outside of P-Ghost, I'm not talking about JMVs, I'm talking about specifically about Ghost coins. The genesis will be fully comprised of those who validate transactions. That's it, right? So only validators will be getting that initial thing. So launch as many nodes as possible. But for you to launch as many nodes as possible, you'll be running rate limits on RPC endpoints. So you'll be forced as test and validators to run your own nodes on Ethereum, on Gnosis, on ETC, etc. And that will be definitely taking some power away. That's definitely going to be increasing some electricity consumption, unfortunately or fortunately, but you'll get your initial allocations. So this is something to consider. This is like a quite interesting thing. And yeah, so again, by introducing this design, we are maximizing our RPC endpoint adoption amongst our community, at least for all the other Web3 projects, not just for Ghost, but for other chains. So that's this. Now, what we've been thinking, what we've been contemplating is potentially creating our own version of MetaMask, called Ghost Mask or whatever. So we're going to be forking the traditional MetaMask. Now, the reason why we would be forking it potentially is not due to the fact that, we want to be the next best wallet or whatever. No, it's more like we need to make sure that MetaMask that is getting worse and worse being powered by soy product managers and soy developers who absolutely killing this amazing legacy product. So we can just roll back to amazing versions of MetaMask from 2-3 years ago and just stay there. That's it. Right? So that's just to give a nice taste of what MetaMask used to be without this BS that is being experienced today. And this is going to be additional functionality. Again, we're doing that. We're contemplating about this, not because we want to create another amazing wallet and just rank. No, we would like to create a product that we ourselves will be using because currently MetaMask is unusable. Like it's absolutely unusable. So for MetaMask in particular, when you have wallet A and you want to make a transaction to wallet B, you'll go through default RPC. So this default RPC will initially be default. You cannot change it. Now, if you're interacting with the dApp, the wallet A will be interacting through custom RPC, the one that you can change within MetaMask. So that custom RPC will be interacting with the dApp-C, and dApp-C themselves will also be using their version of custom RPC. Those two custom RPC could be different or could be the same. It doesn't matter. So dApp-C will be going through the custom RPC to give you a response, to give the wallet A response, right? So that's how it works. Now, what we could introduce, kind of the big change, except for rolling back a couple of versions, couple of years when the MetaMask was amazing, is we could introduce the custom RPC for both transactions, so from wallet A to wallet B, and also through the dApp-C interaction. So both will be using custom RPC endpoints. Now, again, remember going back 2 slides. If you're running multi-node infrastructure for Ghost on the testnet, you will require those custom RPCs. So those custom RPCs can also be repurposed for your Ghost Mask if we ever launch Ghost Mask. Another thing we've been contemplating about is the Ghost Chat. So it will look something like that. It's a super high level type of thing. Now this design is from a year ago, so of course we have some additional kind of advancements to stuff. So aircraft node is aircraft node, full node is a validated node, light node is a full node. Those are the current definitions. So the idea is to use like the gossip protocol type of scenario where the I have 10 peers, so I'm transmitting my message to my 10 peers. One of my peers is Mr. DK. Mr. DK sees 20 peers on his node, whether it's validated or a full node. So he has 20 peers. So he distributes that message to his 20 peers. Then one of those peers is, say, Scorpion. So Scorpion sees 30 peers. So then Scorpion in turn transmits the message to his 30 peers. And thus we're able to cover the entire network, right? So it's called Gossip Protocol, and Gossip Protocol exists for virtually almost every single blockchain. That's the whole point. So what we could be doing is it's called the cocktail party effect type of scenario for the messenger, for the Ghost Chat. It's going to be a privacy messenger where we discuss governance decisions before they are implemented on chain. So essentially, instead of relying on Telegram or some other messengers, we could just rely on our own chat. And how that's going to happen is, let's assume I send a transaction to Mr. IDK. So I just want him to hear it, but I cannot send it to him directly. So I'll send it to the whole network. But let's look at the cocktail effect party. So there's this pianist guy playing, somebody's like singing or whatever, loud music. Those girls talking, right? This guy and girl talking. But I'm this guy, for example. I want to talk to this girl. So I hear all this noise around, but this girl is talking to me, and I'm able to focus my senses mostly. So I still hear the noise, but I'm really listening to her, right? So very similar to the message. When I send the message to Mr. IDK, everybody's going to be hearing that message as noise. They're not going to be able to decrypt it, but Mr. IDK will be able to decrypt it. So that's how this kind of the chat situation could work. So all of those things are part of our vision towards Web3 saviors. Again, Vita money is the vision for the economic component, right? For owning your own infrastructure. As far as pitching Ghost to the partners such as Pulse and ETC and etc. The vision could be that we are the Web3 savior, Web3 uniter. I don't know, like something like that. All right. On this positive note, let's recap next week. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one, and bye bye.